I encourage people not to do the individual containers, because then you've got a straight ice, ice or whatever it is pack underneath that they're all keeping each other cold.
Yeah.
So versus the individual ones, they're going to get hotter faster, and the ice that you put in there or whatever you're using to make that cold is going to get melted faster because it's all by itself in that little container.
Welcome to the Charcuterie Launch Lab podcast, where passion meets profit. If you've ever dreamed of turning your love for charcuterie, or food of any kind, into a thriving online business, well then you're in the right place. We're Andrea and Patty, the Grazing Biz Sisters. With over 60 years combined experience as a chef and digital marketer, we have walked in your shoes starting our own online businesses. We'll share all of our tips, advice, struggles, and best strategies to help you launch and grow your own online foodie business with ease. The Charcuterie Launch Lab is a space for all food creators and entrepreneurs just like you. Let's dive in and get your yummy business launched online, one board at a time. Hey, it's Patty and Andrea, the Grazing Biz Sisters. We're here with the Charcuterie Launch Lab podcast. Welcome back. We're glad you're here. Hi.
Hi there. Hello.
Hi, we made it through the weekend. Barely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
hot.
crazy.
It was hot. It was hot.
Yeah. Hot and wet. Hot and wet.
Yeah, it was for those of you who don't know, it's monsoon season here in Arizona, so it's a crapshoot pretty much every day. You don't know if you're going to get dumped on. You just don't know. And unfortunately,
wait, we got to go back and tell people. People don't even know. Some people don't even know what we're talking about. So we had a 3-day event over 4th of July. And so today we're going to talk about what it took for us to get ready for this and our first day on the event. And then we'll do part 2 on how the rest of the event went. Because it was 3 days and we had 3 totally different days. And we were out there with our brand new charcuterie cart that my husband built, my husband Mike, which by the way, we are now selling. So if you guys are at all looking for a charcuterie cart, we are offering carts that we can ship out to you depending on when you order. But we're also going to be giving you a free website with it as well. So we'll talk more about that at the next time we do this, but I'll have it on the website that you'll be able to check out pretty soon. But anyway, so let's talk a little. Let's back up. When we talk about how we were planning this, it was based on what we thought the head count was. So I have my 2 cents about how that panned out. You contacted the event organizer, which I think we'll just keep nameless, but the event organizer and where we were at on the event. But when you started communicating with them, I think we should talk about the kind of questions that we want to ask the event organizer so that we're ready with the right amount of food, right? So Andrea, you had the connection with the event organizer from the start. So tell me about, first of all, how you found the organizer, because there's a lot of people want to know, how do you get into these events and where do you find them? I know we've talked about it, but in this case, we'll just be a little more specific. And then your conversation with the organizer before we got there and why we ended up going to this event.
Right. So we were on kind of a third-party event of an event. So it's kind of hard to explain. But so there was a main event going on, and we were not part of that because we didn't sign up on time, and we just weren't, you have to sign up for that event many, many months in advance. So with that said, this side hotel had a courtyard and a craft fair event that they were adding on. And so it was not in the main area. And so we took it because, she was touting it as being a good location and affordable. All these things. So essentially, yeah, she was way more affordable than the main event area was. And that was a totally different organization. So we were going off of the numbers that were coming out of the main event that we were not necessarily a part of. I hope that all makes sense.
Yeah. We were on the
So,
outer skirts of the main
right.
event, but we were close enough that we could see everything. There was a parade. There was a
Hmm.
big arts and crafts, or I don't know if it was crafts. What all was? I never
It
even
was
made it
arts and
out there.
crafts. It was
Arts
a
and crafts.
it was a craft
Yeah,
fair. It was a big
craft fair.
craft fair.
Yeah.
And they had streets shut down and all that
4th of
stuff. And
July.
we were in the main thoroughfare from the main parking lot the to the square where the main events were happening. So we thought we would see a lot more traffic than we did, and for whatever reason, we didn't get the traffic that we thought we would get. The organizer was new to all of this. This was the first time she'd ever even done this event on this day. I did not, it was my bad. I didn't know that. Not that it would have made a difference. I think we still would have done it, but it changed the way we set up and how much we ordered because I was basing it on the main event, not the event that we were actually in, which was a side event. So with that said, we had, it was a challenge. And as everybody knows, doing any kind of public event, where you're not in a wedding where they're saying it's 150 people or 125 people, this event you don't know. When you're in a farmer's market or a craft fair, or you don't know what the foot traffic's going to be, and there's a lot of variables. One of the variables being weather.
Yeah. Well, let's go before we get
yeah.
to the weather, because we had weather problems, severe weather problems. We'll tell you about in a second.
Mm-hmm.
I want to back up before we do that and talk more about that discussion with the event organizer that Andrea is alluding to. Is one of the questions that we never thought about asking was, have you had experience with this
Right.
event before? And that was the problem, because she was, and this was something Andrew mentioned, it doesn't matter, I don't think, on what market you go to. They want, or whatever you're doing at an event like this, they want to try to get vendors in there, and they're going to sell you on showing up to these things. Our problem in her case is that we did not realize the way she was talking to Andrea was like, you're going to get killed, you're going to get swamped, it's a crazy event. And turns out this woman had never done this event before. She was, I don't even know, honestly, where she was good. I thought while we were there doing what she was doing.
Yeah, she was
But
very organized, but she didn't have the experience to know how much we were actually going to see, like how many people we were going to see in. And, she was basing it on like the number scheduled for the event. So the foot traffic for the main event that we did not pay for, we were not a part of, that foot traffic could have been anywhere between 20 and 30,000 people. Easy. Or more. 35,000 is what they say, 25 to 35,000.
Hey, real quick, it's Patty here. If you've ever thought about turning your charcuterie skills into a legit money-making business, or if you already have a board biz that could use a serious upgrade, then you've got to check out the new short video we just dropped at grazingbiz.com. It's called Start or Grow Your Charcuterie Business in Under 30 Days, and it's packed with how to get started from our over 60 years of combined experience as a chef and marketer. We want to help you go from just for fun platters to a full-blown online business. We're talking websites, automated ordering systems, pricing calculators, and even marketing templates, and how to build your list of customers. We give you an entire business in a box that you can launch in less than 30 days. Go watch the quick video now at grazingbiz.com. If you've got the passion, we got the plan. Let's get you selling boards before the next holiday rush. Again, that's grazingbiz.com. See you there. And I'm going to say, from my view and from some friends of mine that stopped by that live up there, told me they had never seen that area as full before. Now, that doesn't mean she also, a friend of mine said, I don't come out here all the time, but this was crazy out there in the area where the main event was. So I can't, I guess, stress enough about doing research. And it's nobody's fault. Asking the right questions from the right people probably would have been a better thing, knowing that we didn't realize this woman had not done this before. If we had known that, it would have been a different story. But that was partly our fault for not asking. But at the same time, who thinks about that? I mean, you didn't think about that. So that said, as you can tell, we're going to be telling you that the whole weekend didn't turn out as well as we had hoped because of the foot traffic. Although had we been out in the main area, we do believe it would have been better. And then, of course, on top of that, the weather kicked in. So let's talk before we talk about what happened on Friday, because let's see, God, it's just like it's a blur. We just
It
got
was
home
Friday.
yesterday.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It was Thursday.
So
Yeah.
we started getting ready for the event well, basically we met up on Wednesday to do a bunch of shopping, but we've been doing prepping, and that goes toward the cart and the branding and all that needed to get done. So we're really not going to talk about what we did for the cart and the branding and all that, because obviously that had to get done. The prep for the actual event, we started at the store, and we decided that going and doing everything at Costco, because up in that town, that was really the only place that we could go to get things if we started to run out. And we were concerned about that because we thought if this gets really busy, we might have to make trips to Costco. And so we thought we're going to make sure that whatever's in the town, we're going to tap into. So we met at
Yeah.
Costco and we got pallets of food, and we'll talk about numbers later. And then prepping, we went straight back to Andrea's and started getting ready for what we needed to do, because Andrea lives up in the area. I don't live up there. So my husband was driving the motorhome.
And remember, guys,
So,
as we're talking about this,
yeah,
check your legal rules. I can't stress that
correct.
enough. I know I keep saying it. In our neck of the woods, we can do a certain amount of prep. I could make all the bread that
Yeah,
we
let's talk
use
about
for
that.
our event.
Yeah.
I can make it all under our cottage law and bring it in as a separate entity. And so we use bread. We also had gluten-free crackers that we bought from Costco, but that was not a main part of it.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we were prepping. And what you were saying is that you got to be careful what you're prepping at home, obviously. But let's talk about that
Right.
bread, because the bread was kind of key to what we were doing.
So, yeah, we're going to give up our secret to what we were doing. So
because we told
months ago, Patty had seen this reel on Facebook about this woman who had made a mini charcuterie board, and she put it on a piece of flatbread. And I was like, oh my God, we loved it. I thought it was, so of all the things that I've seen, it really was like an idea that I could get behind. And rather than throwing crackers or throwing baguette slices or whatever, what have you, I love the idea of the flatbread. So I started when we decided to pay the fees and do all the things. So I started making the bread, as opposed to, because I couldn't find the size that I wanted. And there it is.
So for those of you who are listening, it is, would you say it was about 8 inches by, I don't know.
It's a 5x7. I based it on a 5x7 because that was the size of the boat that we went with. Now, again, all of this revolves around your cost. So with the 5x7 and putting in all the elements that went with it, which was salami, ham, brie, sharp cheddar specifically, little skewers of olives and tomatoes, and a mix of nuts and dried fruits. All of those things, once we came up to it, we had to have a certain price point and a certain cost involved. And we get a lot of questions about the charcuterie cost too. So we'll work on that moving forward. But with that said, all of these elements had to come together and come out to the price that we were looking at. And the only way I could make it happen and get the size bread I wanted was to make the bread myself. Now, in Arizona, I can make bread at home, and as long as I label it, so you can see my little label there, as long as I label it and have all the ingredients, I am at that point selling that bread to the business, at the charcuterie business. So it all worked out okay legally. Again, check your laws, because most places are not going to let you do that. But I can do it here. We can also do a certain amount of prep. Here they prefer we do it on site as much as possible, which we did. So anyways,
Yeah.
it's all, a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo, and I can't stress enough that you need to check with your local health department to find out what you can and cannot do.
So many questions about pricing
and we can't help you all regarding the health department stuff. We can guide you and tell you, these are the people you should call, and not specific, but we just cannot tell you guys legal stuff as much as I would love to, because every single state is different.
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate in Arizona that we don't have to worry about it. Yeah, we have a much broader range of laws, because we have so many people selling tamales and burritos and whatever off the street corners that they've really adjusted all of that.
Yeah, but I also think the event
that you're at, were with that.
Yeah, the kind of event, and we talked about this in our previous podcast, is that your event that you're at is going to have requirements in your county, in your state, in your whatever, and what you're allowed to do versus not allowed to do. And so I'm actually going to, we're going to add, if you want to go to the YouTube version of this, you'll be able to see images of what we did and how we set up the cart and everything, because this wasn't just bringing the cart in, because we were at an outdoor event for 3 days that we had to be able to enclose every evening, and the requirements that were needed in the county were, in this case, 3 sinks to clean dishes, for hand washing sink. In this case, we were also warming the bread up on site. So Andrea had fire out there. We had a lot going on. This wasn't just hey, roll the cart in, put up an umbrella and start selling. And
it's like building a little mini restaurant kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
And so our challenge being in Arizona is that it was hot. So let's roll into the weather part of this, which totally, I'm not going to lie, you guys, that was a fucking shit show.
We'll let you say that.
So I know we're going on YouTube podcasts. I hear people swear all the time, but that's what it was. All right. So if you work in a kitchen, this is how you speak. But what happened was we set up on Thursday.
At 3, we were supposed to be open. Yeah.
Right. And we were open, but we weren't like totally set up, but we could sell stuff at 3:00, and we had drinks and stuff too. So that worked out very well. But then I don't even know, it was like 5 maybe.
Yeah, it was around 5 we started getting word about the weather coming in.
Yeah, and the guy next to us said, it looks like 6:00, we're probably going to get hit. I kept thinking, I'm looking up in the clouds, I was looking at the weather radar going, it really doesn't look that bad. I don't know what happened. It came over the buildings and we got clobbered. I mean, clobbered to the point that
it was hail.
It was hailing. I have tarps. She's laughing about it, but at the time,
because your shoes were so wet.
I just wanted to crumble up and that. That's it. I just wanted to leave.
Explain the tarps.
I have tarps. I have tarps for the sides for these situations, because I've been in craft fairs where I've had to protect myself. So I have tarps that fit the sides and everything. So I had no time to react to this. It just came down like a torrent, and then it was hailing. And Pat is trying to cover up the stuff inside.
I'm pulling everything in.
It's actually kind of funny now that I think about it. But so the guy next to us, he's like 6'3", and he's helping me try to put these tarp sides up. And it was hailing, and I was getting clobbered with hail, trying to put the clamps on the side of the thing. So by the time we got done and I got inside the thing, I took one look at Patty and I go, we're done. We're done.
Well,
everything was not the food. The food was actually very well protected.
Paper goods all got protected. Everything.
We had everything wrapped up, and everything was under tables, and everything was where it should be. It wasn't so like the sinks, because you have to have the 3 compartment sinks. They got full of water, rainwater, because it was coming down off the canopies like a rain. It was like a waterfall, basically. Just dropping down. Everything that was on the tables. We had tablecloths that were all nice and dry and beautiful. They were just a drenched mess by the time we got done with it, and it was terrible. It was, and it lasted for what seemed like forever. I want to say 45 minutes. It went straight. So
I'm going to put a picture of Andrea in here drenched, because I took a picture of her. It was, I felt so bad for her, but we were all out. It was
not funny then. No. It is funny now. But at the time, as soon as I got inside, I just said, nope, we're done. Everything outside of the food and the paper products was contaminated. Everything was soaked. It was dripping. It was just like, no, we're done. So we packed up and we went home, and I had to take all the tablecloths home, all the towels. We were using towels to try and dry everything off, and the kitchen towel, everything was soaked. So
the plus here is that we were able to pull the cart back in and underneath everything. So it was already under it, but it really was safe, as well as all of our
and it was easy to pull everything in.
Paper goods, all the napkin, all the things that we were concerned about getting wet, all of that stayed dry. So that was the good part. But it was the tables and just the way it just downpoured, and it was weird because they had set this up like we were over this really fine, like granularly dirt that they had in this patio area, which was kind of crazy. They set this up in there. But anyway, so that dirt was all over the place, bouncing all over. So anyway, as you can tell, that day didn't turn out like we had hoped at all. But on top of that, because of our location, it was just dead. And then as soon as the sun came out at 7 o'clock, and it was still hot here. I mean, and when we say hot, we were in the 80s, but by the time it comes out and we're in a patio area where there's not a lot of wind blowing around, it was like a steamy bath at that point.
It was like Key West in August. It was just, or even worse. The middle of Florida in July. Yeah. So I, again, by the time I got soaked, and I looked like I was at a wet T-shirt contest. I mean, it was just my shirt was stuck to me. I was drenched all the way from the top to the bottom. My feet were sliding around in my shoes, and it was bad. So, anyways, we packed up. We left the next day. We started got refreshed.
The only plus about that was that everything did kind of get washed off. I got up in the morning and we got over there. So my husband and I were staying in our motorhome about a mile or 2 miles away at the most. And we had a lot of the stuff in our motorhome, keeping cool, some of the food like the grapes and things like that we could keep that were just fine, and they were in there. We also got lucky because the hotel let us use their refrigerator that they had. So we were able to put all of our food in there at nighttime, which helped a ton because we didn't have to schlep it all out of there. The stuff the meats and the things that we had on site. But we did have a lot of the stuff in my motorhome refrigerator, which is a pretty good size. It held a lot, so that was good. So, I mean, storing. So I guess we have to give some advice here, because I feel like if you're going to set up for more than a one-day event, and it's not that we're saying not to do it. We haven't even told you the rest of the story, and we will. But I think the moral of this story is that make sure that you've got all your bases covered, because we spent a lot of time thinking about how are we going to keep things cool over a 3-day event, and not knowing we were going to have this refrigerator. We had how many coolers? 4, 5 different coolers.
5, I think. 5 coolers.
Not to mention the water jugs we needed for drinks and
Yeah, and you have to have the water jugs for the cleaning of the, to have the water and the hand washing, and so there's a lot that goes on. I think I have a pretty decent list of things to follow up on with the checklist that I have, which is when you're doing an event like this, just things to get signed up for and to pay attention to. That will help you. But I'm going to add to that checklist at some point where I can give you some ideas of things that you need to bring with you and have available, and just to help you out.
Yeah, we could talk about a few of those things that we went, oh wait, we should have done this and we should have done that, or I wish we had it, or where was it at? I mean, the whole time, do not forget to bring scissors. We had 1 pair of decent scissors. I wish we'd have more, because those were coming in handy all over the place. The other thing we brought even though we were in a 10-foot canopy, I was very aware of our weather having issues as far as heat and sun goes. So what I did is I brought our beach umbrellas. We have those ones that we got at Costco, which if you've been to Costco, many of you probably have these big blue ones that were Tommy Bahamas or something like
Bahama.
That. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I had those, but the problem is that they were squirrel in the ground kind. So luckily we had our really heavy duty folding chairs that have tables on the side. So I was able to rig up those umbrellas to move with the sun, because even though we were underneath the tent, we still had sun coming in at certain angles. And so that's something I could tell when they told us where our location was in this, that we were going to have sun issues on the front side of our thing. And then the people that were coming up were trying to stay out of were trying to stay in the shade. And then at certain angles, no matter how hard we tried, we still had sun coming in, because we were there from 8 in the morning until 8 at night, or tried to be there till 8 at night, except that first day, which we didn't get set up, didn't have to be there till 3. So the sun was going this way. So if I can give you any suggestions, even if you're just out there with an umbrella and you're there for a day, that's probably not going to be enough, because here's what you're going to be dealing with is the temperature of your cart. And we're going to go into great detail about that because of the health department coming by. We're going to talk about what happened there when that happened. And they didn't come until Sunday, or sorry, the third day.
Yeah, that was really, he came on our second day. Yeah, I mean, on our second full day. It was the third day, but
yeah. It was late in the day.
It was kind of a weird setup. So he showed up very late in the day, and everything was fine. But it's definitely a challenge, and on the next episode, we're going to talk extensively about our ideas about how to do this, because without an electric situation where you have air flowing all the way around the product, the only issue with the charcuterie cart is trying to get those
keep
products
it at temperature, which needs to be
a long term.
41 to 43 degrees is what they required, and 41 degrees cooler.
You want it to stay below 41, just to be on the safe side, and that doesn't mean just at the top or the bottom. Our top was not holding, the bottom was, and the middle was not holding at all. Yeah. So you really have to pay attention to that. So we've got some ideas about it, rather than switching it out all the time or throwing out whatever's in there and then putting fresh stuff in, because you're going to lose a lot of money doing that. I struggle with that part of it. There's always going to be you were on it with food, but I was trying so hard to keep everything, and it just happened to be hot. The sun was coming on us. I will say that the organizer did tell us we were going to have sun. She did say that, and so come prepared for that. But it
worries me when I see
a big learning experience.
Yeah, it worries me when I see people just out there with a cart and umbrella, because if you're outside, it doesn't matter what time of day it is. The sun's going to hit you, and at some point, and if you have an umbrella that's stuck in the middle of your cart, and even if you're able to tip it, great, but even still, that's not going to cover up your entire cart. That's not enough. And nowhere near is it enough. We had our 10-foot tent plus the 2 umbrellas. Now, we're not trying to scare you off. We're just trying to educate you on stuff to remember and to think about. So when you're planning, and I know, because we live in Arizona and the sun burns 360 days a year pretty much around here. I mean, it's a lot of sun. That it doesn't matter, because even where Andrew's at, she will get sun, and then it might rain half the day, and the next thing it's 90. It's just the way it is. So you just got to be prepared for what you're going to deal with. Now, we did also have wind issues at certain points, so that was a whole other side of it, where we're trying to hang on to things.
Luckily, I think we were pretty stable.
We were on that compared to what you've experienced before. So
compared to what I've seen other people experience, and I have managed to, hold on to my stuff, whereas I've seen tents completely, like, they're gone. Everybody around me gone. Yeah. But there's tricks to holding your tent down properly. So there's definitely that to think about, and so. You just got to plan for how long you're going to be there. But I think the most important part about this is that how are you keeping people safe? And that's what you're feeding folks. The food part, that's exactly. How are you keeping your food products cold, even if it's a 2-hour event, if it's a 4-hour event, if it's all day, you're not even going for 2 or 3 days like we did. You've got to think about the importance of this, because the last thing you want is to make anybody sick. But and the reality is, and Andrea made a really good point. She goes, I know you want this to look good, but I got to cover this up. And she was right. And we're now going to explore our different ways of trying to make this better.
which was interesting because the health department guy even said that there was another charcuterie cart company that was out there. I don't know, did he say it was last month? And they were indoors. I don't know if you heard it. They were indoors and they had at 70 degrees, right, and their temperatures were in the 70s on their
theirs
cart.
Were higher.
Really
like
bad.
Ours
weren't that bad
in the zone, but they were not as bad as that. And I had ice, like I had our little ice packs on top of everything. And and he was basically like, we had to shut him down because it was just way too high.
He wasn't telling us that. He was telling those people.
You got to be careful about the temperatures inside those little containers, because that's why I encourage people not to do the individual containers, because then you've got a straight ice, ice or whatever it is pack underneath that they're all keeping each other cold.
Yeah.
So versus the individual ones, they're going to get hotter faster, and the ice that you put in there or whatever you're using to make that cold is going to get melted faster. Yeah. Because it's all by itself in that little container. So when you have a full ice container underneath and you have 6 pans on top of that full pan, they're all going to keep each other cold. So you're containing the space, and you're containing the cold that you can. And again, it's about keeping as much cold in the spot as you can. So I'm just saying, I know there's a lot of charcuterie carts out there. If you're going to do anything more than an hour or two, you're going to want to have something like what we did. And I think you'll see it in the picture where you have a full-size pan with 6 pans inside.
Oh, yeah. So if you watch if you go to our YouTube video, we talked about it in the last episode.
Yeah, we did. I thought
you'll see it. It's in the video if you want to go to the YouTube podcast of our last episode, which was 16, I think. So anyway, well, we just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on what we did to get set up to get up to this 3-day event. We don't want to drag this on for the whole 3 days because we're going to tell you more about how the rest of the event went. We did have breakfast. We actually, as much as it sounds terrible, we did have success. We did make money. And we'll tell you what we served and how we did it and how we managed between the two of us for an event like this. And
we're going to tell you the bad parts of it, like the serving of the breakfast was a little bit of struggle.
Oh, luckily we got busy.
Through it. We got slammed. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, so there's positives to this story, but we're just warning you that, if you're going to do this, and there's so many of you doing events, whether it's a cart or not, whatever you're doing out in the sun, if there's food involved, you just got to do what you got to do to get yourself set up so that you're actually going to have success. And then making sure that before this event even starts, that it's the right event and what to expect there. So anyway, I think we'll finish that up for today, and then we'll come back. I am going to be traveling this week, so we're going to try to catch up and do our second part to this, the rest of it, and we'll tell you the rest of our story next week. And but in the meantime, we're glad you guys are here.
Yeah, she's traveling to Chicago, and I'm going to Sedona. Oh. So we may be reaching you from different places.
Yeah. And I'll be home. I'll be home on Sunday. So.
You'll be home, but I'll be in Sedona.
You'll be in Sedona. So
there you go.
Yeah, we'll try to catch up on Monday or Tuesday next week. So, but yeah, we're excited to tell you the rest of the story and then how to make this successful for you. That's the goal. Is that if you're going to go out and do this, make sure you're getting as much information as you can before you go and do it. And anything we can do to help you, we're happy to. Don't forget that we are here we try to be here every single week, but our goal is to help you grow a successful business and give you all the tips and advice we can. Be sure that you've joined our free group on Facebook at Start Your Charcuterie Business. And we also have we keep talking about wanting to work on this charcuterie cart calculator. We got to work on that part. We do have a calculator.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. We're trying to figure out the best way to make it work.
Yeah. But we have a lot of resources, free and paid, that we can do some coaching. And yes, if you are interested in getting a cart and getting a website, and again, everything we said today, you'll probably run off and never do this at all. But no, seriously, there is,
No,
you do not have to do 3-day outdoor events in 90-degree heat like we did.
Right,
So
and you can't control the weather, so I can't blame it on anything but Mother Nature.
Yeah, at that point, for
luckily,
sure.
it was just one day it was 1 hour of one day.
Yeah, bad enough to scare us away that night, but it was all right.
Yeah, I was just like, we're done.
Yeah, we're out of here. She literally did that. She went, get the hook. We're out of here. And I'm like going, oh my God, how are we going to recover from this?
But we did.
Keep seeing you all drenched. And and we'll tell you the other story about her dog running away on 4th of July. We'll tell you that too. But it ended up.
It was all good times. She's still alive. She made it out.
She's good. But oh my gosh, add it to the list. Anyway, it's not drama. It's no fun, right? Anyway, we got to give them something to come back for.
We have our stories. All right, everybody. Have a good week. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for stopping in. Tell everybody you know about us. Share, tell the world. We love y'all. See you later. Bye.
Bye.